Ladies and gentlemen, it is time once again for the APB recap. As usual, we're going to talk about a couple of the hooplas that I featured on my last APB show. That's my most active channel right now. This video is a lot more concise and advertiser friendly, but my stream is absolutely raw and uncensored. So if you want to see our raw reactions and other stuff, then check out APB show channel, link down below. My brother is also playing some games in there in his solo stream, so you can check them out as well. More installment of Activision Blizzard being an absolute garbage of a company. Activision Blizzard King introduces a diversity tool to rate the characters' diversity on metrics like gender identity and ethnicity. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Activision Blizzard has reduced all of your identity into some stupid metrics that they have to adhere to. Big corporations make the worst crap every single time. The subtitle reads, "With this innovative new system, the character design process now has a tangible way of avoiding tokenism, stereotypes, and exclusions." In other words, it gets our company in less trouble from the progressives. This is the kind of move that is to be expected with big companies like Activision Blizzard. They're gonna do whatever it takes to appeal to the widest general audiences and to the lowest common denominator possible. But if you ask me, the problem is less on the fact that they piss off the progressives and more on the fact that they make garbage games. The article begins by saying, "We want to see ourselves represented in games." If your priority is to have yourself to be seen in games, that says a lot about you as a person, as in an absolute narcissist. The only game that successfully represents me are games that let me to create my own character, which, last I recall, there are tons of them. But apparently that's still not enough. And even with games that have character creators, I don't want to play as me, I want to play as someone else. If you want to play yourself, I'd rather the public not see that, thank you very much. The article continues, "We want the barriers to access lowered, and we want games to be a welcoming environment for all." If you get turned off by playing games because the character that you're playing doesn't have the same physical characteristics, then I recommend you to get off the internet in general, because everyone in this place is not the same as you. The article then said, "Just look at the 2019 International Game Developer Association IGDA Developer Satisfaction Survey, which asked developers what they consider to be the most important factor in the growth of the gaming industry. If it's not this,
Developers, 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 developers. Developers, 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 developers."
then I don't know what else to tell you. The most common response? More diversity in content. And yet, they don't do that. It's almost as if big corporations make the worst crap. And this is where we get into ActiBlizz's solution, and I put solution in huge quotation marks here because it involves putting your identity as some charts for the corporate suits to woggle at. That's the thing about statistics. It's a tool, like everything else in life. And in this case, the suits at ActiBlizzy wants to maximize as much profit as possible while being one of the worst corporations in the gaming industry. Just look at this. Look at what they turn video game characters into. This tool judges characters based on their culture, race, age, cognitive ability, physical ability, body type, facial features, beauty, oh my god. They are power scaling oppression. So with these metrics being put on place, the absolute best character is the one that wins the Oppression Olympics. As in, a character who is the most oppressed out of all of the physical characteristics and other identities that describe them, I guess. Doesn't really matter if the character is interesting or well-written or compelling in any way, but hey, whatever suits you. I love the fact that they showed the diverse cast of characters in Call of Duty Vanguard, which last time I checked is the worst performing Call of Duty, to the point where Elden Ring managed to outsold it. Elden Ring, of all games, that's a primarily single-player game that has multiplayer elements, whereas Call of Duty Vanguard is a primarily multiplayer game that just so happened to have a campaign. Trash campaign, but a campaign nonetheless. The article then says, "The plan is to release the tool internally across Activision Blizzard starting this summer and into Q3 with an eye towards what Tomatas called the ultimate goal, making the tool available to the industry as a whole." Ah, yes. The ultimate goal is to release this tool to the industry, to make characters that absolutely skyrockets and dominates the Oppression Olympics, rather than, oh, I don't know, make a good character. Or better yet, make a good game. But don't worry, guys. It gets better. They actually responded throughout this entire hoopla. They edited the original article where they talk about the whole thing with an editor's note. And it would be unfair of me to not include this response, especially when it's a retraction to the whole thing. Oh yeah, and they also just straight up remove all the pictures and the images that are involved with the original article. But don't worry guys, the internet never forgets. The editor's note says the following: "There's been conversations online regarding the diversity space tool, particularly concerning its intent and our commitment to diversity. We've edited this blog post to clarify that this prototype is not being used in active game development." In other words, this thing is useless, just as we expected. But hey, if you're putting this much effort towards treating your fictional character, I wonder how much effort you're putting to the real-life people that are working in your company. Not too much, I assume, but we'll talk about that later. The tool was started in 2016 and was designed as an optional supplement to the hard work and focus the team already placed on telling diverse stories with diverse characters. In other words, they don't really have to use it because it's really dumb and it invalidates people's hard work. Imagine making an amazing, original, well-written character and then have some executives telling you, "Oh wow, that character is in upper class, therefore your character is not oppressed enough and therefore it doesn't fit our diversity criteria." They also said that the objective of this tool is to uncover unconscious bias by identifying existing norms in representation and acknowledging opportunities for growth and inclusion. In other words, we designed this so that we don't appear racist. Considering the many scandals that you're facing right now, you guys are doing a really good job at it. And then it finally concludes with, "The diversity space tool is not a definitive evaluation of diversity in game content. Rather, it is a bridge in opening previously unspoken conversations into how thoughtful inclusion can happen and thrive in games." In other words, we're just trying to start a conversation, guys. We're not trying to hide the fact that a lot of our executives are a bunch of bigots. We're just trying to make the space more inclusive to everyone. Again, you're doing a very good job at it, considering how people are not only quitting your company, but they also got laid off of your company for daring to suggest a better treatment for employees. Oh, I think it's time we get to that part, don't we? Don't worry, guys. That whole diversity thing that I talked about, that was just a distraction. The usual distraction from Activision Blizzard, just so that they can make people to talk about that hoopla and not talk about this hoopla. Granted, the diversity metric tool, the power scaling oppression tool was pretty fun to talk about. This one, however, is not fun. Activision Blizzard 3 days ago was accused of union busting. The company has laid off 12 employees from the QA team of Raven Software since last December, with several others being transferred to different departments in an attempt to quash the union election. Raven Software executives also said that unionizing may have effects on potential promotions and benefits for employees. Oh, God forbid that employees get benefits for their hard work. As if all of the scandals that we talked about isn't enough. As if them basically telling investors that they should remove harassment reports from last week wasn't enough. Now they're here being accused of union busting. Activision Blizzard used the usual tactic of distracting people with really dumb hooplas, like making the character more diverse so that they can hide this crap. Well, not on my watch, Activision Blizzard, not on my watch. Can you believe why players are quitting their games? And the thing is, I don't even agree with having them being unionized. Union creates other additional problems too, especially when dealing with workers that perform badly. I can see why companies don't want to have their employees unionized, but the reason why those employees unionize is because the upper management is being absolute pieces of garbage to them. It's the horrible relationship between the two parties that led us here to begin with. To put it simply, you won't have to deal with busting unions if you're actually treating your employees correctly. This goes to you, Nintendo, if the accusations were true, that is. So if you weren't treating your employees this badly, Activision Blizzard, maybe they wouldn't have to unionize and you wouldn't have to bust these things out. But hey, I'm just some guy who demands game developers to be treated fairly. An unreasonable request, I know, especially in this godforsaken gaming industry. In my last video, I briefly mentioned the Xbox outage, where players who own Xbox can't play their games because their services are out. And yes, that includes single-player games. They can't play single-player games because Xbox services are out. And you wonder why people chose to sail the seas. Ever since then, it's gotten worse. Much worse. What happened since then is basically a game of whack-a-mole. The mole popping out of the hole in this case is the gamers, and the hammer in this case is Xbox being offline. Every single time gamers are trying to play anything last week on Xbox, they just got whacked back. Doesn't matter if the game is like decades old and it's from the original Xbox era. Doesn't matter if you already signed into your account, they still ask you to sign in. Doesn't matter if it's your home console, you still can't play because Microsoft is being very insistent on its always online DRM policy and how it guarantees the big corporations protection from those awful pirates who dare to steal games. Hey, at least the games that they stole actually work. What makes this a really depressing game of whack-a-mole is the fact that the Xbox support keeps on insisting that it's working, but it's not. Then they fixed it again. It's working this time, but it's not. Then they fixed it again. It's working this time, guys, for real. But it's not. It's freaking not. They keep on encouraging the moles to get out of the hole only to get smacked down again and again and again. Don't you just love it when you buy games and they don't work? Can you believe why PlayStation wins the last gen? Can you believe why I chose to play on PC? One of the biggest problems in the current year video game landscape, and will continue to be a problem as time goes on, is the absolutely garbage DRMs that a lot of these game developers love to give their customers in order to protect their bottom line. The problem with DRMs is that it's always used by the big corporations when they don't really need it, and it only ends up punishing the players who actually bought the games. I say we should get ahead of the curve by punishing these big corporations by picking platforms that give more control and independence towards the players, like the PC. Oh, and speaking of the PC, let's talk about a really bad take. This is connected to the Xbox DRM Hoopla that we just talked about, so let's get into what Anon has to say about it. Anon said, yes, PC DRM is dumb because it doesn't work, but it's still an effort, hopeless effort, to combat piracy. Then why are big corporations still doing it? What's the purpose of putting DRMs if it's a hopeless effort? They even do it to really old games, like the classic Sonic games and Sonic Origins, for some stupid reason. There's no need for that excessive DRM, and yet they keep on doing them. Anon then said, I'm assuming as many as 90% of PC gamers pirate games. 90%, Anon. 90%. That's a very generous assumption. Have you ever cracked any piece of software? Genuine question. One of the biggest hurdles in piracy is the technical and digital knowledge that's required to crack stuff. I'm not even exaggerating when I say people don't even read the included README, even if I explicitly told them to read it, and even if I wrote it specifically in their language. Most people have abysmal digital literacy, abysmal financial literacy, abysmal media literacy, and I might as well add abysmal actual literacy in it. That can lead to absolutely disastrous consequences in life, especially if you have no one around your life that's actually good on those things. If you want to see this in real time, just check out any piece of news on crypto stuff falling down and falling down. It's not even funny anymore. It's just sad. Going back to PC gaming, if you seriously think that most PC gamers, 90% of them actually pirate games, that would imply that 90% of PC gamers are smart enough to crack games. They're not. I can assure you that they are not. And even if they are, some chose to just buy them on the store because, believe it or not, there are drawbacks of cracking games, such as lack of updates, or in some games, lack of mod support. And that's all for the video today. Please give it a like and subscribe. Support the channel to the links down below, and thanks for watching.